Hello everyone. So I didn't plan this presentation, but I was so excited about the news about the Nobel Prize that I wanted, to give a bit give some insights on the prize and how AI can be used for research, because I think it's very important for people who are in scientific research, how we can leverage AI, how we can make more progress. So. So the presentation is so AI is a catalyst for Nobel-worthy innovations. If you have the ambition of winning the Nobel Prize one day, it could be useful, I hope. Uh, okay, so I started. So AI, as you know, at least according to me, is one of the most important technological change of the 21st century. So I think it'll be the 20th century. We had the personal computer, we have the internet, we have the mobile phone. So I think it's probably in the same scale. Okay. Um, so this year, 2 weeks ago, AI has made history by being central to two Nobel Prizes, and maybe even a third. I'll talk about the third one. The first one was in physics, awarded to John Hopfield and Geoffrey Hinton for national discoveries and inventions that enable machine learning with artificial neural networks. Jeff Hinton also won a few years ago the Turing Award. People call the Turing Award the Nobel Prize for Computer Science. The Nobel Prize in Chemistry was split between David Baker, I think he's based in the University of Washington, for computational protein design, and the other half jointly between Demis Hassabis and John Jumper for protein structure prediction. So the last two work for Google DeepMind. The third prize, which is not exactly AI focused, but one of his awardee, Darren Acemoglu, is very focused on AI, is the Nobel Prize in Economics for the studies on how institutions are formed and affect prosperity, why countries are rich or poor. But Darren Acemoglu, in fact, has talked a lot about AI recently in the past couple of years. So these are remarkable milestone for AI. So that's why I wanted to speak about it. You might have hold on a second. We're going to stop sharing. Okay, I'll share again. Okay, I'll share again. And tell me if so. I'm going to play a small videos and tell me if you hear the sound. Okay, if you don't hear the sound, maybe you just let me know.
The Nobel Prize in Physics is one of the 5 prizes founded by the Swedish inventor Alfred Nobel and awarded on 10 December every year. Before Alfred Nobel died on 10 December 1896, he wrote in his will that the largest part of his fortune should be placed in a fund. The yearly interest on this fund would pay for a prize given to those who, during the preceding year, shall have conferred the greatest benefit to humankind. The interest would be divided into 5 equal parts, with 1 part awarded to those who shall have made the most important discovery or invention within the field of physics. In recent years, artificial intelligence, or AI, has become a common topic of discussion in our society, and we encounter new applications for AI in everyday life with increasing frequency. The Nobel Prize in Physics 2024 recognizes methods that provide an important basis for the development of AI. AI is usually based on what is called machine learning with artificial neural networks. Machine learning means training a computer to be able to chat, for example, or to drive a car or interpret images of faces and plants. John Hopfield is a professor at Princeton University in the United States. Geoffrey Hinton is a professor at the University of Toronto in Canada. The technique was initially inspired by the structure of the brain. The brain is made up of neurons, or cells, that are interconnected with one another. Artificial neural networks are constructed as simulations inside computers. In an artificial neural network, the brain's cells are represented by nodes, or points, that are connected together with one another. The nodes can have different values, like 0 or 1, or other types of values. The nodes influence one another by making the links between them stronger or weaker. Training the network makes the links between nodes of the same value stronger, and links between nodes of different value weaker. John Hopfield found inspiration in physics descriptions of the way the many small parts of a system influence the system as a whole. Hopfield invented a network that can save and recreate patterns. We can think of the nodes in a network as pixels in an image. Information is stored in a way that is comparable to the formation of a landscape. When the network is being trained, each pattern that is stored forms a valley of low energy in the landscape. When a distorted or incomplete image is fed into the network, it passes through the nodes and updates their values so that the network's energy falls. The network thus works stepwise to find the saved image that is most like the imperfect one that was fed into it. Geoffrey Hinton created a new network based on the Hopfield network, and he called it the Boltzmann machine. Hinton used tools from statistical physics, the science of systems built from many similar components, such as atoms in a gas. In the Boltzmann machine, there are two layers, one with visible nodes on which information is fed in and interpreted, and another with hidden nodes that impact how the network functions as a whole. The Boltzmann machine can learn to distinguish characteristic attributes from a data set. The machine can be trained by feeding it examples that are very likely to arise when the machine is run. The Boltzmann machine can be used to classify images or create new examples of the type of pattern on which it was trained. For example, it can be used to recommend movies or television shows based on the viewer's own personal preferences. Machine learning is used in many different fields today. In physics, for example, machine learning is used to search for planets in other solar systems, known as exoplanets. Many researchers today are working to develop different areas of use for machine learning. It remains to be seen which applications will turn out to be most useful. Meanwhile, there is an ongoing discussion of ethical questions surrounding how the technology should be developed and utilized. In addition to providing us with valuable new tools, could AI also pose a threat to human values? In an interview given in conjunction with the announcement of the 2024 Nobel Prize in Physics, Geoffrey Hinton discussed his research and how he sees the development of AI. When asked whether he saw himself as a data scientist or a physicist when he invented his method, he said his foremost motivation had been to understand how the brain works. Hinton also described the anxiety he feels about the development of AI and how important it is for the big technology companies to take responsibility for and invest resources in research on security and control.
Okay, very good. So this is, of course, an AI giving you a presentation on this topic, but the content was prepared by the Nobel Committee, right? And they prepared this material for, in fact, for teachers, for schools to teach this to students. So the content is, it's not AI generated. So you had a brief description, so I won't go into the too much technical details, but John, so you would be surprised that maybe it was awarded like a physics Nobel Prize because it's more like computer science. But the motivation for John Hopfield is he was trained as a physicist, I believe, but he really wanted to look at like in physics, you want to look at like small, like like atoms or like so when they get the aggregate, they have the aggregated behavior differs from the macro behavior. right? So you look at if we have like simple behavior, simple rules for neurons, does it like create like complex behavior? So that was his motivation. That's how it's related somehow to physics. And what they call the Hopfield network is a neural network. This probably you're not very familiar with because it's a network where neurons are connected to all other neurons, right? There's no like a sense of direction. That's what we call like forward feed neural networks. They're all connected to each other except to themselves, and so they're not self-connected. The weight asymmetry, the weight um, asymmetric, so that is the going from here and from S1, the node S1 to S2 to S2 to S1, it's the same. It is the same weight, right? And it's always like a bi-directional. And also something a bit different is that the update of this node can be asynchronous, right? They don't have to happen all the time. So it maybe it's closer to what happens in the brain. So he was really inspired by what was in the brain. And something also that is quite interesting is that his network can have memory, right? There's some states that can be stored in his network. So in the videos you saw that there's like that number, just like a 7 or 9, and they because it's like falling down, looking for like the low like energy point, and then it stays there. So it's probably is it something similar happens to us in a memory? Why we have our memory when we don't have electricity running? I mean, we have a bit of electricity, but it's really maybe some states of neurons that keeps our memories, and somehow we are able to retrieve them. Okay, but in reality, it's still it was done a while back, right? Probably in the 80s. It's not what is driving the big like neural network of today, but there are some ideas that people are like revisiting to see like maybe because the fact that it can have memory is very an attractive feature for neural networks. The second thing is like, so this is like the bread and butter of like deep learning of the large neural networks. So on the right, you have an example of like a neural networks using deep learning. So you have inputs. You can see like X1, X2, X3. X1, X2, these are the inputs. The outputs could be A1, Y2. And you have the different, on each vertical is a layer, right? So input layer, output layer, and these are like called edge for like hidden layers. And they're like connected, but only in one direction, right? Contrary to the Hopfield networks. And you have a different weight. So the connections is a weights, and these that they take different values. Okay. And so these are like, so they're like, so now the networks could have like billions or sometimes close to trillion parameters. So it means like they have like many nodes and many connection. And the way to calibrate this kind of models. So usually the simplest way, at least in supervised learning, is that the answers, right? You have examples of y1, y2, x1, x2, x3. You have the answer, and you try to calibrate the model to fit the answer. And Geoffrey Hinton came up. At least he applied it to neural networks, what we call backpropagation. So meaning that so here you see to calculate value is go from x to y, but to calibrate the weights, it goes from y to x. This is why it's called back propagation. So this is represented here. So you see the y, right? And y is y would be like the real value. Y hat will be what is predicted by the model, the parameters that we try to adjust. So you have a loss. A loss would be like, let's say the square deviation between the sum of square deviation between the observed and the model values. And we calculate what they call the gradient, like derivatives, right? To calculate the weight, to adjust the weight, right? We try to minimize the loss or to go to the lower loss. So we go wherever like the gradient is negative, for instance, if we want to minimize the thing, right? So we do it, and then you do it like many times. up to reaching the level X. So each time you go do one iteration, you change the value of the weight here, like W4, and you do it by iteration, and you converge. Sometimes you don't really like converge. You find something that is satisfactory enough is how you calibrate your model. So this is on when this kind of research was done, it was done in the 80s, and some computers were not very powerful. So some of it was kind of it was not really like practical, right? So and for decades, people don't see made fun of this kind of research, but didn't see a lot of promise, right? Like it looked for some, maybe it looked to some people to dead end, right? Because these networks were very small, the computer powers are very small, memory was very small, so it was not really practical. Chemistry, so here I'll do it, but maybe I'll do just half of it or a third of it because I believe the beginning should be
with which the structure is described as life's ingenious chemical multi-tools. Proteins can be divided into different groups according to their functions. Structural proteins, with which the structures and tissues of living organisms are built, such as hair, bone, and skin. Receptor proteins, which take in information from the surrounding environment, such as insulin receptors in the cell membrane. Signaling proteins, which process information and pass it on, such as adrenaline. Gene regulatory proteins, which control when and how much of a certain protein is synthesized in a cell. Transporter proteins, which transport various substances throughout the body with the help of the blood, such as hemoglobin in red blood cells. Enzymes, which ensure that chemical reactions in the body occur in an effective way. An example is the chemical reactions that occur in the digestive system. Proteins are built up of amino acids. These amino acids are linked together like a string of pearls. There are 20 different kinds of amino acids that can be linked together in an endless number of different combinations. A protein can be anywhere from about 50 to thousands of amino acids long. What makes proteins so amazing is that these strings of pearls twist and fold themselves into specific three-dimensional structures. It is the protein's three-dimensional structure that determines the particular function of each, such as an enzyme. For over 50 years, researchers dreamed of being able to predict the three-dimensional structure of a protein, what it looks like, while knowing only the sequence of amino acids. Demis, Hassabis, and John Jumper have developed AlphaFold2, NAI, model that allows us to predict the structure of a protein if we know the sequence of amino acids. In the development of AlphaFold2, they trained the AI model on every known amino acid sequence for which the protein structure had been mapped. Now an amino acid sequence with an unknown structure can be fed into AlphaFold2, which searches various databases for similar amino acid sequences with known protein structures. What AlphaFold2 does is to puzzle together all these amino acid sequences and tests different ways of assembling them into a hypothetical structure. Then the model estimates the probability that various parts of the structure correspond to reality. David Baker began at the other end. That is, he started with a three-dimensional protein structure and figured out its amino acid sequence. He and his research group drew up the three-dimensional structure for a hypothetical protein. Then they let the Rosetta program figure out an amino acid sequence that could produce the desired protein. In order to test how successful the program was, they did the same thing in a laboratory using an established method known as X-ray crystallography. It turned out that Rosetta really could construct proteins. As a result, today we can start with a sequence of amino acids and create a complete protein, and we can even go in the other direction, from protein structure to amino acid sequence. It used to take many years to determine the structure of a protein, if it could be done at all. Thanks to AlphaFold2, today it can be done in a matter of minutes. The AI model is available for researchers all over the world to use for free. Since the program was released in 2020, it has been used by more than 2 million people from 190 countries. Knowing a protein's three-dimensional structure makes it possible for researchers to understand various sequences of events in living organisms. That increases our understanding of diseases and paves the way for new pharmaceuticals in the future. Equally important is the fact that we now have the ability to design new proteins. With the Rosetta computer program, researchers can create proteins with new functions, something many once thought impossible. Building proteins that are loaded with new functions can give us things like new nanomaterials, targeted pharmaceuticals, and faster development of vaccines. In an interview given in conjunction with the announcement of the 2024 Chemistry Prize, Demis Hassabis shares his ideas about how AI can be used in research to study the world around us. He said, "I've always thought if we could build AI in the right way, it could be the ultimate tool to help scientists help us explore the universe around us."
Okay. Maybe I skip this experience. I mean, we got an overview of AlphaFold. So what is interesting, it is freely available to scientists. So it means that you can use their tools. You can do online. They didn't release the full code, right? So it was a bit their research were published in Nature. So here you see that it was AlphaFold 2021. And normally, like Nature requires researcher to publish their code, right? And sometimes even give access to the data, but it depends, what's the source of the data. But DeepMind didn't publish the code, right? It was still published because it was so valuable and very obviously he won the Nobel Prize. But some scientists are a bit upset about that. But you can use the tool, but you don't know, or you know the general methodology, how it was built, but you don't see the computer code. Okay. So AlphaFold is really like you have one chain of amino acid and try to predict what it's going to look like in 3D, right? AlphaFold 3 is the next level. It's like you have like several molecules like protein, nucleic acids, ions, and ligands, and how are they going to interact together? Well, so this is the next step, and this is what they have published in 2023, AlphaFold 3. So this is the next level, and it's very useful because you can let's say you have a virus or like a bacteria, and you're going to see like what kind of medicine or what kind of chemicals can attack the virus, right? It can do for medicine, for vaccines, and etc. For material science, etc. Whatever you want to combine the different proteins or nucleic acids and so on. So here, for instance, that picture is probably one protein and maybe the RNA. Usually, RNA, DNA, they look more like spaghettis, right? And the small spaghettis, very thin spaghettis, where the protein they look bigger. And here we talk about ions. Ions would be like sodium or and these kind of things. So they should be the small balls. Right? Economics. I'll skip this just to give you because it's not really related to AI. But two researchers at MIT. So they are really interested in why countries become rich and poor, right? So so what they say basically is like institutions matter, right? It's like you need like enforce like property rights. You need you shouldn't be too corrupt. You have people who needs to have their voice on. So it's an alternative of their theory is to say it's defined by geography. They say, oh, maybe your pay is hot, people are not very productive, so the growth is low. But they said, well, it's not true because some countries were very rich in the past, right? So I think they gave the example of the Incas in the 15th century. They are very prosperous countries, economies, and that's how they fell off. So now the countries at the place like Peru and so on have a low as not as rich as before. You can look at Argentina and so on. But on AI, So they are looking at so AI is not an institution, but it's a technology. So they are looking at what's the impact of AI on the labor force, on growth, on so on. So they feel that it's going to impact like economic growth. You see the top purpose that maybe by 0.5% of GDP. So it's not that super like we say that they have like no more than 0.71% increase in total factor productivity over 10 years. Right? Like that's it's probably an annual rate. But whereas if you listen to Sam Altman for OpenAI, he talks about doubling, tripling the growth rate and so on. So it's like you see, it's very is very different. But they are also concerned about the impact of on labor, on the workers, and so on. So it's very like trying to push for. I think I'm sure you'll hear them more because once they have Nobel Prize, I think people are more willing to listen to them. So try to have a AI that is like enhancing workers instead of replacing them. Okay. So now how AI can help. So there are like different issues in research. So maybe some of them, some of you are researchers, so you are aware of that. So first is the interdisciplinary research, right? So it's so research between different departments, right, in the universities or in the research centers, and in fact, in theory, it looks very nice. It sounds very nice, but in practice, it's very you don't see that much of interdisciplinary research, right? Even though it's probably essential to solve complex global problems like the climate crisis, or even so even like in you saw with the protein folding, protein for forecasting is a mix of computer science and biology and maybe chemistry. Okay. But so what this article that I show you here, they document that universities are quite reluctant to break down disciplinary silos, right? The different departments, right? So maybe they like the ideas, but they don't do much about it, right? And so you observe if you have been to a university, you observe silo departments, separate budgets, right? Distinct research practices, lack of support for interdisciplinary career path. My background, I'm in economics and finance. For that, I can give you the example of between math departments, economics departments, operational research departments. They all do finance, but they rarely talk to each other. Like for some economics and math, they don't do anything together. They might read the same papers. They don't even read the same papers, right? And they don't go. They go to different conferences and they study the same topic, right? Finance. So you can imagine that between like then between medical school, biology department, and so on, you observe that a lot, right? So China is pretty good at doing interdisciplinary research, right? Because they are newer in the research space. But usually and you have some initiatives try to do that. And some institutions like Caltech, MIT, they're pretty good at that, but there's usually it's not great. So what the AI? So AI is great at that because it can facilitate collaboration between the fields. So how can it do it? So first, it can make the scientific literature more accessible to other scientists, right? Usually, if it's not your field, these papers are very difficult to read, right? Because they have their own technical jargon, they have their own the way of writing things, and so it's very difficult for me. It took me a while to get used of reading like computer science papers, right? Because they are very different style of the economics finance papers tend to be very long, very detailed. They don't assume much, so they explain everything from zero, right? Uh, in uh, in other more hard sciences, papers are shorter, right? They just go straight to the point, and they assume that you know what it is about, right? And so it's a different style, but AI, you can use AI. Say, okay, what is this paper about? Give me some context. You can interrogate a paper, a PDF, and it can help you understand it. Same thing for computer code, right? A computer code like written for an algorithm, even if DeepMind had published a computer code, it might not be like easily like readable, understandable. But AI can explain you all can explain you the program. You load the code, and AI can go line by line, like and say, okay, what it is doing, and so on. So it's a very powerful tool to help us, go understand the other scientific literature in other domains. Okay. AI also can help to create educational material, right, to train more students and researchers. So you can do, suppose you are a physicist and you want to teach your colleagues in the other departments about your domain, you can set up some teaching material accessible to them. AI is also a common language, right? We talk about deep learning, but once you know deep learning, backprop on all these terms, transformers, and so on. So these things that you learn by testing AI, and then you retrieve them in the different fields. Right? You say, okay, these are the same objects, these are the same algorithms, right? So you have a common language, and then it makes it much easier to understand what other researchers are doing, right? Even if you do, in particular, you're like a scientist in medicine, biology, in finance. If you read another paper that also using like deep learning, you really tend to understand easily what they're doing. Okay, so it's very powerful, right? Because otherwise, people use their own models that, that's historically they use this kind of models. It's usually sometimes very strange for people who are outside of the domain. Why do they do that and so on. But here, if they use AI, then you understand it quickly. Now the trend is to build a foundational models, so big models that can address different needs. And sometimes these big models can think of like ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not specialized in chemistry, biology, and so on, but it can be used for different scientists, right? So you have the same idea. So I list a few applications of AIs, right? But I can use AI, but that can help. That can use also interdisciplinary research, right? For instance, AI engineering, aside like material science, robotics, and so robotics usually is in the computer science department. So material science have their own department, so they usually they wouldn't work together. But now, the AI they can lead joint projects, right? Build materials for robots, right? Or maybe you have to build robots to go to Mars. So what kind of materials they have to use, right, to be there on some. Okay. So what kind of scientific research? So here it's in terms of so there's a tension between applied and basic research or fundamental research. Okay, so applied is what you see in it will be more like industry research, right? And basic is more basic research what you see at non-profit organizations like universities or publicly sponsored like research organizations. Geoff Hinton, the one who received the Nobel Prize in physics for deep learning, he recommends curiosity-driven and basic research, and persistence. So we go back into on his recommendation, but persistence, unless proven. But the idea is a curiosity-driven, but not like profit-driven or maybe application-driven, right? So the benefit of basic research, right? So if you look at the context of the Nobel Prize, is that it can lead to real scientific breakthrough. Something really new. This usually the Nobel Prize they give it to something that's really like a revolutionary, right? Like a breakthrough discovery. Right? So that's why this is the advantage of basic research, right? The risk of the basic research that it can lead to dead ends, right? So the good outcomes are rewarded with the Nobel Prize, but there are also like bad outcomes or no outcomes at all, right? You can work on some things and has like dead ends. So for instance, in AI, so if you are to work in if you are not to work in deep learning but symbolic AI and so on, as of today, it hasn't led to too much, right? So maybe if you spend like 30 years of your life on this domain, maybe it'd be harder to get the Nobel Prize. I mean, not that it matters that much, but or maybe it might not make a big difference on society. Okay. Benefit of applied research and payoff are more immediate, right? But the risk is that it will be less innovative, right? And because it's maybe too conservative, you don't deviate too much from the consensus. Problem also of basic research that it needs financing, right? And so when the outcome is a bit uncertain long term, it's very difficult to find money, right? It's more difficult to find money. Applied research is more easily financed, right? Because you can show, okay, this is what I plan to do. This is the plan. I get the results in 6 months, 1 year, and so it's and the path to profitability is much easier. So there's probably an optimal mix between the two, right? Of like short term, quick win, and maybe long term wins are riskier, but higher risk but higher return projects. In AI, in reinforcement learning, you have that trade-off, what they call between exploration, exploitation. Explorations that you try to find, try other ideas, or exploitations that you use the ideas that you have today. I'm a great admirer of the Bell Labs, right? Of the Bell Labs, historically, right? They come up with, they invented the transistors, the information theory. There's so many things came out from the Bell Labs, and when people who studied the Bell Labs, they attributed its success to stable funding, money. So because at the time the AT&T had a lot of money. It was a monopoly, right? So it was easy to make money. Long-term thinking and some strategic approach to research organizational management. In particular, they believe that they have to attract a critical mass of very smart people, talented people from diverse disciplines, and to create a conducive environment for them to thrive, right? So they were in the same building. They'd be easy to meet, to discuss, to exchange ideas. And freedom, they had a lot of freedom, right? So once you are like a fellow of member of the Bell Labs, they didn't tell you to work on something very specific, but I guess they had some idea when they hired you, but once you get hired, you do whatever you want to do. So you have freedom. They didn't want to minimize distractions. So it means that so most of them probably didn't teach, and there's no deadline, and then no rigid objective. So it's kind of a heaven for researchers, and they come up with very great results. And we're going to see that maybe there's a new Bell Labs today. I skip this, but you can Google it. If you are curious about this, they have these ideas of focused research organizations. That these are like so they're there as an alternative maybe to universities how research is done today, because research projects now tend to be like very big scale. Look at you think of CERN, right, for like particle physics. So you have huge, they're more like industrial scale projects for research that really universities are not really prepared for that. At the same time, these organizations are not like companies, right? They're not like for-profit companies. So you need something that is like you need managed research. You almost need like a CEO. You need people who are like, accountable. You have like a collaboration. You need like systematic way of training researchers, having tools, machines, and so on. Scalable, repeatable. Right? It's not only proof of concept. That could be. But at the same time, it's not a for-profit company. So they have these like focused research organizations, and maybe something will come up. So here, DeepMind, interestingly, so Demis Hassabis, who's now the CEO of Google DeepMind. So DeepMind was founded outside of Google, right? Google both invested in DeepMind, but it's not part of Google's. And when he did it, so this is a description of 2017, so it must have like changed a little bit now. So you see, it sounds a bit like the Bell Labs, right? So it focuses on ideas, long-term research rather than products, right? They want to have the ambition of crack human intelligence and recreate it artificially for social impact. So this was the plan. So they want to solve what they say, solve AGI, solve artificial general intelligence. So they apply algorithms to real-world problems, right? Protein folding, so we saw you got the Nobel Prize, cancer diagnosis, energy efficiency improvement. So it doesn't mean that they want to do like useless research, right? They have an interdisciplinary team of world-leading scientists. So they're very smart people, but interdisciplinary, right, from various fields, neuroscience, physics, machine learning. So they have the culture prioritize creativity, freedom, right, from short-term pressures like the Bell Labs, and collaborations across disciplines. So that's very important. So that interdisciplinary research is very important. That we know that today universities don't do much, right? They have small, flexible teams, rapid resource reallocation of to focus on high potential, high impact projects like AlphaGo, that the program that could win at Go and AlphaZero. So they are socially oriented. Researchers are highly motivated. I think they are quite relatively well paid too. They're motivated by curiosity, right? The same thing that Geoffrey Hinton was pushing, right? To be a curiosity-driven research that creates a unique environment. And you see the payoff has been extraordinary, right? They come up with like so much discovery. So now it's changing a little bit because now here, Demis Hassabis, DeepMind is absorbed by Google. There's a merger between the AI team called Google Brain in California and DeepMind. It was done in 2023, I think, following the success of OpenAI. So there's a lot of pressure on Google to deliver in AI and say, okay, Demis Hassabis, very smart fellow at Google, they say, okay, you lead us in AI. Okay, I mean, there's also like I think there's a Jeff Dean also who is very good in AI. He's a kind of AI science, top AI scientist at Google. So this is kind of interesting that you see this a common point with the former Bell Labs, and maybe now that Google demand has more pressure on delivering products and Gemini or all this kind of thing, they'd be like distracted, and maybe they might not be able to be as creative. Right? Maybe there's a risk. So the different bottlenecks in scientific research, I go over them on the list. You must be familiar with most of them, and we'll see how AI could help. So there's limited funding, right? Like, especially like public universities or even private universities. Sometimes it's not that easy to raise money. The cost of research tends to be high, especially in domain like AI, semiconductor research, drug development. There's a vastness of scientific knowledge, right? There's so much publication and so on to keep up to date in one field. It's already like a challenge, right? Or like in two fields, it's even more difficult. Like generally, is almost impossible. Research silos, we talk about this. It's interdisciplinary research. We talk about this. Project management skills. Researchers are not trained to manage like large projects when now, like projects involve like involve many hundreds of researchers across different countries, universities, and so on. So you need to manage projects. There's a lot of issue like bureaucracy and administration and so on that the researchers have to deal with. So I mean, usually it's for good intent, but yeah, there's also negative effects. Risk aversion, risk, for career, you have to think you are like a young professor, you're postdoc, you want to be hired full time, and you're like a professor, you want to get tenure. So there's some particular incentives that tells you that maybe you have to take some risk, but calculated risk, and you need some results in 7 years from now, otherwise you have nothing to show, right? When the tenure committee will decide for you to get tenure. So there's also this. So we talk about more increment, more basic applied research, and then you have all the issues in the task. In terms of resources, so especially in AI, but especially now, if AI is going to take a larger role in research, so you have the problem of compute, right? GPUs today, or maybe other device tomorrow, and this it is visible. So this is like research papers in AI, and you see like the most productive is Google, right? And just after that, you have like Meta and Microsoft, all like private for-profit companies with huge resources, huge capabilities in AI. Like they have hundreds of thousands of GPUs, uh, data centers, and so on. And no, very good, prestigious, very good universities like Stanford, Carnegie are lagging a bit behind, right? So even Stanford, even the computer science department at Stanford, I don't even know if they have more than 100 GPUs, no, they definitely don't have thousands of GPUs. So they are very limited. CNU, the same thing, and other universities is even worse. So this is kind of interesting. I'll go quickly over this, but this is the cost of the research, right? So here the R&D spending in billions here for in AI has been going up a lot, right? But you see that the numbers are enormous. Like Apple is spending like $26 billion, Nvidia spent like $5 billion. So it's like it's a lot. So it's very difficult to match for public organizations and for education organizations. Here, this is like a graph talk about study on the cost of drug development. So the cost also is increasing a lot. So this is the productivity is going down, right? In terms of so here this research. So it's the cost of drug development from 2000 to 2018. So the mean cost was from $172 million in 2000. It went up so through like roughly three times to more than half a billion dollars in uh, in 2018, and closer to $1 billion, right? It's like $880 million if you account for the cost of failure and the capital cost, right? Because money is not free, right? So ratio of R&D spending to total sales, right, went from 12% to close to 18%, right, within 10 years, and I think it's not improving. Here, this is a graph number of drugs per billion of dollars, right? So you see it going down. So you make fewer drugs per billion of dollars of R&D spent. Having a bit of a time, so I go quickly over this. Is an international report, so I recommend you to read it from the Royal Society, as published of maybe in 2022, where they talk about the concerns that AI raise in science. So first, we need to train researchers, right? A lot of AI studies lack reproducibility. For instance, DeepMind didn't publish the code, so nobody can replicate the results, right? And nobody can replicate the models, right? Because we don't have the code, right? So it's not reproducible. This is very, very important, right? So the output might be unreliable. Might not trust. There may be a bug in the code, right? We don't know. There's problem of data bias, data poisoning. Data poisoning means that like some nefarious actors might put like bad data in there. Scientific misinformation. People can produce fake results, right? Fake papers, right? It's possible with AI now. The models, for instance, the one reason why the DeepMind said they didn't want to publish the code was that the code could be used to produce bioweapons, right? So we don't want people to produce bioweapons. So this is the malicious repurposing of AI models. And then there's this thing that there's the issue that AI, because he uses a lot of compute, it emit a lot of carbon dioxide, so have like negative environmental impact. And now you read that in the past few weeks that Microsoft, Google, they have like the agreement to restart nuclear plants, the 3 Mile Island. That 3 Mile Island, I think might restart. I don't know if it's with Google or Microsoft because they need so much power, right? So they have a personally, I'm a bit skeptical with 3 Mile Islands. Story from the 70s or something. I know, can you restart? Is this something from 40 years ago? And everything all right? I don't know. I'm sure they do some audit on some. But it's a bit, you can see that it has some real energy and environmental impact. This I go over this very quickly, but this is kind of maybe a future of research. So here it's only done in the domain of AI research, right? It's not like for all domain of science, but they have the idea of having an AI scientist that could do three things: idea generation. So they say that find like novel like research directions, right? So find new ideas of research. experimental iterations. So propose the experiments. So these are done in AI. So experiments in AI is just computer code, right? It's like running, running a computer. So the AI can do it, right? And paper writer, then write on paper, right? Write them in LaTeX, do the graphs, the title, and so on. So they managed to produce a lot of papers. As I'm sure there are a lot of bad papers, but also some decent papers. And they also, I think not this paper, like another paper, they also try to replicate referees, right? They try to predict if this paper is going to be accepted or not by referee, right? So they have also a model for that. And they find that some papers could be accepted by referees today, purely generated by AI. And the cost of producing, I think, well, they mentioned in the paper, I think it's around like $15 per paper to produce. Right, so $15 is not even like minimum. It's like minimum wage in New York, right, for 1 hour of work, right? So this might be the future. I don't know. At least it's done in AI. So I'm getting close to the conclusion. So how to use AI for scientific research and lead to different future like Nobel Prize worthy these discoveries. So make AI accessible to all, right? The Royal Society said, researchers need to be trained in AI, so data, methods, and computation resources should be given to researchers. So you need to learn AI, all the tools, data analysis, simulation, computer vision, generative AI, NLP, all this kind of thing. But I think many people who are interested can learn a lot of resources now, to do it. AI should be a skill like computer programming, scientific writing, LaTeX, for technical writing, and so on. It's just a skill, right? It's not now everybody has to use a computer, and everybody should be able to use AI intelligently, of course. Address the bottlenecks that you have listed before. Design incentives, right, to have more long-term curiosity-driven research that was suggested by the people at DeepMind and Geoff Hinton and so on. To so that people are more long-term, help them to get more like long-term fundings, explain to donors or funders that it's important to do that. And it's not, it's not only because basic research will feed the applied research of tomorrow, right? So for people who are researchers, some advice that many of them from Nobel Prize winners from past and present. So here, like someone that I like a lot is Richard Feynman, one who got the Nobel Prize in 1965, a great educator, a great scientist, but also a great educator. And you see his quote, right? So what do I advise? Forget it all. Don't be afraid. Do what you get the most pleasure from. Is it to build a cloud chamber, then go on doing things like that? Develop your talents wherever they may lead. Then the torpedoes, right? Full speed ahead, right? So you might sink your ship, but just go full speed ahead. If you have any talent or any occupation that delights you, do it and do it to the hilt. Okay, so it's really so don't be afraid. No, don't care too much about what people think. I added things, that by reading other people or some of my own ideas, but be flexible, be curious, open-minded, optimistic, right? I think it's good. I mean, life in general, be persistent and not stubborn, right? So I think it's what Chef Hinton was suggesting. Yeah, be persistent, but if the facts say that you are wrong, maybe you should change your mind, right? Be flexible, be ethical. I think there's a lot of, we didn't talk too much today about ethical AI, but it's very important. So I summarize this in the 14 commandments here. I'll conclude here. So I'll go over this. You can read it yourself, but you go from you shall not obsess over others' opinion, right? No fear, take the leap, take joy, right? So what we mentioned before. Feed your talents. Seek knowledge in other fields, right? Be open-minded, right? Don't even you have very strong, even you are very smart. Other people could be smart also in their own fields. Have a positive outlook, right? Persevere in your pursuit, be flexible, right? Have integrity, I think I've noticed also for people who are very successful in research, they are very generous with their PhD students, with their colleagues and so on. So share a lot, right? It's like, I know what it said in the Bible, what they say, if you give a lot, you receive a lot. I think it's true, right, in science. Especially now, it's like a lot of collaborations, a lot of collaborative work, right? cultivate collaboration and the community, respect others, and legacy, be authentic. I think to be very successful, you have to be too true to yourself. Things you have your own talents, cultivate your talents. Things maybe you're not that good, then find a collaborator, right? Who's very good at that. Things that you don't enjoy doing, find someone who enjoy doing it, and work in the team, right? So I think here is how you'll find a true success. Okay. So I'm going to stop here. I don't know if